Welcome to Dreams Inspire Reality Podcast with Tara Darnley, a podcast for creatives looking to turn their dreams into reality with practical strategic steps from everyday people and entrepreneurs who are living their best lives possible.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited about this episode. First of all, my name is Tara Darnley. I'm the co-founder of Dreams Inspire Reality and Aleron Kong, a lifestyle brand for kids. And I'm excited about today's episode. And first of all, this is our brand new season 3. So we're kicking off season 3 with a bang. And today we have our awesome guest who is Aleron Kong, and he's an author. And I'm so excited to share his story because it's literally dreams turn reality. And I'm excited to have you today, Aleron. How are you?
I'm really good. I appreciate you, squeezing me in. It's nice. I know it was not the normal time, so it's awesome.
We're good. That's a part of entrepreneurship, making your own schedule, right? So let's get started. I like to start with asking the first question is, are you living your dream life?
I am. I honestly usually say that I'm like the luckiest person I've ever met, one of the happiest people that I've ever met. I've had a lot of different jobs in my life, but I finally found something that like is fulfilling and can make me money. So that's like pretty awesome. And, it's letting me reconnect with my friends, my family, go on hikes, many things that I like. So, yeah.
I love it. And we're going to go into that because now everybody's like, what do you do? How are you happy with your life? Because when you ask that question, normally you hear, not yet, or I'm working on it. So can you tell us a little bit more about you yourself in your own words? I normally read your bio for you, but I like
don't worry about
it. Do it. I like when you do it. So tell us a little bit more. First of all, what I found very interesting about your story and how we actually met. We met this summer at an Amazon event. And like I told my audience before, it was very few of us of color there, right?
Yes. We definitely saw each other like, hey, what's up?
Literally. So when I'm at these events, guys, you literally could spot your own in the crowd and you're like dive in and swim in to get to them to find out like what do they do, and you want to connect, you want to make sure you leave and you're connected. And I remember someone coming up to me and we were looking, they pointed to you and they were like, well, he's a doctor and he just quit his job and now he's an author. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? So that's what intrigued me about your story, that you were a doctor, which is a dream job for a lot of people. And it's such an amazing career path to have just to be able to help people on a daily basis. So take us back to your journey as a doctor and where you are today.
Got it. Let's see. First, not everyone was happy about my switch. I told my parents over dinner, and my dad said, "Are you paying your bills?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We'll pass the chicken." My mom immediately said, "So you're just gonna piss on all your ancestors? That's the plan." And it's just like, my mom is pretty hardcore, so she still wants me to go back, but everyone else is pretty happy. I'm very happy. So yeah, I did my training. I am the only triple Morehouse alum in history, as far as I know. Because I went to Morehouse College, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Morehouse Internal Medicine residency program. So I did my training at Grady, which is our safety net hospital here in Atlanta. And I was there for about 5 years. And then after that, and that was about 6 years ago, I immediately got a job working nights for 5 years with Kaiser in Atlanta. So basically I'm a hospitalist. So I do like heart attacks, broken bones, strokes, pneumonias, the everyday kind of stuff that gets you in the hospital. While I was doing that, though, I found that I had wanted a creative outlet. I wanted to sort of like, after the decade plus that I dedicated to becoming a physician, I was sort of like really hungry for something else that I could put my energy into. So when I was working nights, when I was off, when I was awake for the few times that wasn't happening, I started writing books, and I never thought that anyone would ever read one. I thought that maybe my mom would read it. She has not read any of them. That's a different kind of conversation. But I thought maybe one day somebody might find a manuscript under my bed that I'd forgotten about 20 years ago. But I put my story out and it resonated with people. And I had a lot more story to tell. So in about 14 months, I wrote 6 novels, each of them between 100 and 200,000 words. And then I wrote my 7th novel, and that was just a massive phone book of 3,000 pages. it was so big actually that when it released on Audible, it shut Audible down for about 4 hours, like internationally. And the head of Audible called me and he's like, please tell your fans to stop cussing out our customer service agents because they're doing their best. So like, it was just this massive tome. And like in that process, so like in that 2 years, I also, started my social media game and everything else like that. And my genre, which is LitRPG, basically combines video games and sci-fi fantasy, hadn't really had any social media presence in the Western world. So I started building that up, and yeah, about 4 years kind of passed, or like, I guess like 3.5 years kind of passed in a blink. And I realized that, I paid off my loans and things were going pretty well, and that I really, really loved, writing these books. And while I loved taking care of patients, honestly, your patient interaction as a doctor is maybe 5 to 10% of what actually being a doctor is, right? And there's a lot of like paperwork and there's insurance things and all the things that you've seen on TV that frustrate people. Like that's actually kind of true to life. So after, when I looked at like the 15 years that I put into it, I was like, well, let me just take 3 months off, and then 3 months hit and I was like, yeah, 6 months. And then, and then we were in January and I'm like, well, let's just make it an even year. And now I'm about a year and 2 months. And I don't know, I don't see a world where I don't see another patient again, but I am very, very happy. I'm about to have 2 more book releases by the end of the year. Like I've been able to connect with, tens of thousands of people around the world that I never would have met before. So yeah, it's literally a dream come true. So
I love that. And where was that like pivotal switch where you're like, you know what, besides your happiness, of course, which seems to be like the driving force behind everything, when was that pivotal point where you're like, you know what, I don't need to go back to work, even though it's fulfilling, even though I'm saving lives. Like this is more about my long-term passion, my long-term goal, my long-term happiness. Like where was that switch at? And of course, money plays a part because you do, like your mom said, and your dad, are you paying those bills? So, because I don't want people to think like we're working on passion and, love, like where did those two things connect where you're like, now it's time, I can actually do this full time?
So I mean, it's funny that you mentioned love, right? Because I've talked and listened to people like many, many times, many, many nights, and people are always like, well, is love the only thing you need in like a relationship? And I'm like, no. I mean, if like your life was a car, like maybe love's the most important thing. It's the engine. You cannot have a car without an engine. But who wants a car without like, air conditioning or a radio or, seats that actually recline or, I mean, there's other things that go into this sort of like life trajectory. And as far as my relationship with my books, it was the same thing, right? Like the passion is what really drove me, like the fact that it feels fulfilling, that it's an act of creation. And honestly, it saved me in a lot of ways and it fulfills me in a lot of ways. But yeah, if I wasn't making coin with it, I would not have given up being a doctor to be like, well, we'll figure that out down the road. No, like I very much like had a plan of when I was like thinking about making this thing, I was like, okay, well, how's it going to look in a year? How's it going to look in 5 years? How's it going to look in 10 years? What are my options? Can I come back? And I mean, it was very deliberate. If I'm being honest, for years, other doctors were like, so when are you going to get a doctor? When are you going to get a doctor? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Why would I do that? And then like the job that I was in switched a little bit because the management changed. And if I'm being totally honest, there was a let's call it a polite conversation with me and a manager that at the end of it, I was like, yeah, but I'm not your child. So what are you thinking? And then I was like, I got to get off the phone. So I hung up the phone and I opened my contract and read it very carefully. And then made a plan of action where I was like, you know what? I don't know if this particular atmosphere is right for me. So my initial time off was going to be like, okay, well, I'll take a time off. I'll sleep for the first time in 15 years. And I'll start looking for another position because I have the leeway and I'm very blessed to be able to do that. And then it kind of just morphed into this. But I will say, like, based on your point, like, no, if I did not have the coin right, this would have been a very different trajectory, would have been a very different everything. Because I always just think back to that Dave Chappelle sketch where he's like, yeah, he kept it real, but they kept it realer. Yes. And it's like, yeah, if you could be a boss, but you should really think before you pop off, because that's how they get you. So.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. The first thing you did was sleep, and now that really enforces like, so guys, when we schedule our podcast interviews, we kind of give like a time slot, and Aleron was like, I'm sorry, I don't do mornings. And it was funny to me because I was like, I can't even like say anything about it. My team was like, we're just gonna have to fit in a schedule because he's not doing morning, and I know you really want to have him on. And I was like, that's awesome, because that's the whole point of being an entrepreneur, creating your own schedule, creating your own lifestyle, not conforming to anyone. And I think so oftentimes we do that, or we think like, we want to make our own rules of entrepreneurship, but there's no set rule. Like, you literally set your own rule. And I love that you took a year off to even do that, make sure it was right, make sure the money was right, and all those things. So that was awesome. So now let's get into the meat.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's really talk about the type of novels that you write, the sci-fi.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not into sci-fi. I never watched Game of Thrones, and I know people are going to be like, what? I'm that person who's never watched anything. I'm more into documentary and stuff like that, but this really intrigued me. And what really intrigued me and piqued my interest more in your story was when you started to show us like your hardcore fans, like literally were getting tattoos, guys.
We're up to 22 tattoos now.
This is crazy.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
So this is like, you have created what most of us are yearning for, that audience where there's a no like and trust factor, to the point where they want you forever imprinted on their bodies. How did you get to that point? Because of course, as you know, as an author, there's tons of people just sticking that label to their name now. Everyone is an author. They write a book. It may be an amazing book, but it never gets sold. They don't get reviews. You have over 100,000 reviews on Amazon. So can you share some tips for authors that may be listening? Like, how were you able to successfully do that? And like you said, you just really started to focus on social media. So this was mostly organic. So can you walk us through some of those maybe tips for anyone listening?
Yeah. And let me know if I go too long.
We want it all.
Okay. All right. Well, I'd say the very first thing is that when I was writing my book, I wrote it with an idea that I just wanted it to be right, that I just wanted it to be fun, that I just wanted to kind of hit the notes that I wanted it to hit. And because of that, I like willfully ignored like writing rules. I willfully just like didn't do the things that other people say like you have to do, because I mean, again, I didn't think anyone was going to read it, so I'm like, well, I might have just make this as boss as possible. But because I did that, because I had fun with it, people could tell that that I was enjoying writing my books, that like I was chuckling along with it, the same way you can kind of tell when you're on the phone with someone and they're smiling. Like, it's just a thing that we feel, right? So the first thing I'd say is like, as far as your product, like make something that's real to you, that's true to you, that, really just sort of feels right. And then let the chips fall where they may to a certain extent as far as your dream, because you might be surprised. There might be tens of thousands of people out there that are like you and you just never knew. So that was like the first part. That's the like creative, like, hippie love part of it. And then the next parts are very, very deliberate to a certain extent. If you look at I got this little booklet here. Like, if you like, I have a black main character, right? But if you look at my, cover, you wouldn't necessarily know it's a black main character at all, right? And that was a very deliberate choice on my part, right? I was like, I want to write a book that has a black main character that is just doing his thing. He's living his life. It's like, he's not rocking a pick with a fist on top. He's not necessarily wearing a dashiki, but like, he's a black main character and people will have to enjoy that. But I also was very cognizant of the fact that the mainstream out there, right, is usually turned off to things that are quote unquote black, right? So I decided I was going to walk a line between like, and every book I'm like, his brown skin, his black skin, his his like curly hair, like referencing a lot of black things, so it's there, but at the same time not so that it's like there. Does that make sense? And this is a conversation that I've actually had with other authors that are really bothered by that. You know, they're saying like, well, what's the point of writing it if it's not like on the cover? And I'm like, well, the point for me is that I now have, you know, thousands and tens of thousands of mainstream people that wouldn't have given a Black character a chance and now have fallen in love with it, right? The point for me is that while my number one goal was writing a book that was an enjoyable story, my closely followed secondary goal is like, it's not enough for just to be a story. I want this to be a tool for social change to a certain extent. And what I believe is that you don't change someone's mind by yelling at them very often, unless they're your kid, and then they have to listen. But other than that, you're not really going to do that. And anyone that's been in an argument on the internet knows that. But I do believe you can shift someone's perceptions by like slowly decentralizing them to things that are problematic, right? So like I touch on like many things, like I touch on like gender equality in my books, but I don't talk about it. I'm not having like a woman yelling at a man or a man just like standing up for a woman mansplaining. I just have warriors that are male and female, and we never really talk about it. It's just sort of there. Also by the, you know, the premise of like using my real name, by putting my face next to the books, you know, I have people wearing MAGA hats, like, you know, taking pictures of the book. They're like, I love it. And I'm like, do you see any disconnects in this at all? And they're like, what? And I'm like, okay, well, let it sit, you know? But I mean, the way that we're portrayed is often highly negative in the news and everything else. So I like to think that by the mere fact of having, you know, a positive image in people's minds of, well, this is also a Black man, right? This is also a Black main character, that maybe it can slowly erode those heavily entrenched ideas that are just based on nothing, just based on what grandpa, you know, said, and then hopefully they can get away with. So in regards to your initial question of like, how did I make it happen? That was actually something that like, I both accounted for the mainstream, but also rolled the dice on, right? It would have been a lot easier if, you know, I didn't put my face up. Like there's authors out there that are, you know, people of color, and they just put like an acronym or like an image up to the thing. And like, I'm not going to hate on them. I don't know their journey, but for me, it was more important to put my name up. But I also did it in a way, put my face up in a way that I knew wasn't going to sort of trigger the automatic things that people, you know, find negative, right? And then it's like, and a lot of my covers, you know, they're very beautiful. Like I take a lot of pride in them. And then the 7 cover that everyone's waiting for, it's like black face, boom, accept it. And I still once a month have people that like have said, oh, I've read the books 3 times, but why do you guys keep saying your main character is Black? And I'm like, cause he's Black. And they're like, no, you said that he had like rich, you know, brown chestnutty skin. He could have been, you know, like Mediterranean with a tan. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to put up this picture, you know, of Black Panther and tell you he's this kind of Black. He's this kind of Black. And then it literally happens once a month. And my fans, you know, like I've got like these really great groups, like, you know, thousands of people, and they're like, really, again? And they're like, well, this changes everything. And then I always, and like people try to like yell them down, but I'm always like, okay, but why? Why does it change everything that this character that you love, this fictional character that you love, is Black? And they're like, and I'm like, not trying to come at you, just think about it if you can, because for a lot of people it does, and that's exactly what I wanted to get done, right? So I guess what I'm saying there is that like I had a goal that I knew could alienate people, and I intentionally went about it in a way that I thought was going to be more effective, even though it's a way that other people might find objectionable how I did it. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, because I think what it is, especially with product makers or creatives, we always have to remember the one substantial fact that people want to see themselves in our products, in our service. Whatever you're offering, they want to know that you're catering to them.
Are you looking to diversify your sales channels? Well, look no further. Dreams Inspire Reality Consulting can help you from step to step to launch and grow your brand on Amazon, Walmart, and eBay, the top e-commerce platforms in the world. Your ideal customers are searching for you everywhere but your website. Stop making it hard for them. Let us help you diversify your sales channels. Visit us at www.dreamsinspirereality.com to schedule a consultation.
Well, that's good. That's good. So see, guys, there's a lot of creative ways you can do this while embracing everyone's. I first of all love that you pointed that out. In terms of marketing and like, why did you launch on Amazon? Like, can you tell us more about that? Like, did you decide Amazon was a good platform to launch on? Was it easy? Did you think that was really what pushed your brand and like really expose your book to more people? Like, tell us about that journey with Amazon.
So I didn't know this at the time, but like there's a saying, like, you don't mess with the Zon, because Amazon is just everything. If you want to be an independent writer, like, that's it. Period. Stop. There's no more conversation about it. Like it's just done, because while there are other platforms, I mean, there's nothing that is as inclusive. And I'll also, say, like what I said when we met, like I simply put would not have been an author without Amazon, just period as well. If there was not an indie option, right, then the slog that you have to go to be, so let me say, I'm an indie author, meaning independent, as opposed to a trad author or traditional. Traditional authors sign with a publishing company, and I do everything myself just by uploading on Amazon. So the process itself is super simple. You make an account, you link your bank account so they can pay you, and you upload a PDF and a cover, and you're an author. Boom, that's it. It takes 24 hours. It's literally the easiest thing in the world.
You said it like that, though, because that's so true.
I mean, it's true. I mean, like, that's why, there's like, 2 or 3, like, something like an insane, like 30 million authors or something like that. They won't give the numbers, but like, it's an insane number of authors. Now, the question is getting anyone to like you or read you. Yeah. So, I mean, that comes down to 2 things. Like, are they going to give you a chance? And then once they give you a chance, are they feeling you or not? Right. Mm-hmm. So as far as giving you a chance as an author, like that old thing, like, don't judge a book by its cover, is absolutely wrong. Like, everyone is going to judge your book by their cover, and they're not even going to judge it by like a full-size cover. It's going to be like a thumbnail that you guys have seen. So you need to be able to catch them immediately. And so like my first books were just sort of like this black background with some mist on it, and I'm an alpha, so there were just like gold letters everywhere, right? And people were liking that, and they were feeling it, and it was branded, it was unique. But at the same time, what a lot of people want when they're selling or buying something, right, is they want something that looks like something they already like, but different enough that it's not going to bore them, right? So for me, when I was deciding to rebrand my covers, I did research for 2 days. I went on, scanned through like every top selling author's cover on Amazon. I looked at like old ones from back in the 70s. I looked at like, their B list, whatever. And I tried to find like things that were core or central, not like the actual images, not actually what they did, but it's like, well, they like these 9 covers. What do they have in common? And I was like, oh, make sure I use like good color contrast. Oh, make sure I use something that's, eye-catching, or blah, 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 blah. So then I took those elements, basically wrote them down, and I was like, well, how can I apply that to my book? And found an artist who wanted to light me on fire, because I was like, not quite right. Let's do it a little bit. And everyone that works with me kind of like starts to get that. And I can't work with anyone that can't communicate well, because I usually have a vision. And like the artist that I was working with initially, actually, we don't work together anymore, because he's like, you're my most demanding, customer. And he's like, and it's like, it doesn't matter that you're the best art I've ever made. And I'm like, well, see, but I feel like that does matter. And he's like, nah, I get paid anyway. So we don't really work together anymore, because, he's willing to do whatever. But for the people that do have that wherewithal, I think we make something that's really, really amazing. We have to be able to like vibe off of one another. So yes, with Amazon, it's super easy to become published. It's harder to obviously get people to like you and whatever. Like, how do you make that happen? It's a hustle, like you join a Facebook group, you join a Discord, you join an Instagram, you like beg your friends to read it. Back when I was first starting, Amazon had these discussion boards that I think still exist, but they've mostly gotten away with them. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And so like for my genre, there were only 4 books published before I published mine, at least in the Western world. And so I went on to the 4 authors and I was like, hey, can I tell you whatever? And I got 3, get out of here, kids. And one guy was like, yeah, I saw my girlfriend last night. I'm in a good mood. Yeah, sure. And so like I just posted on this thing and people were feeling it, right? And then so because again, my genre did not have a social media presence at all, I was like, well, let me get that started, not knowing anything about social media, but checking out YouTube videos and whatever else and trying to figure stuff out. And it grew into this after, several mistakes and some really good wins.
That's awesome. You picked a niche and you owned in on that niche. That's exactly true. That's awesome. So what's next for you? Like, what should we expect from you from this? And first of all, before I even ask what's next, how is your transition been from going from a doctor to now I do whatever the hell I want kind of life?
Yeah. The bigger question is, how is the transition from not sleeping for 15 years to sleeping?
That's true.
And I'm just a nicer person. Like I'm convinced that doctors are kind of mean because they need a nap. I really think it's just that simple. So like, I'm sleeping, I'm sort of just kind of happy. I don't really have the same pressure on my shoulders that I used to all the time. And I kind of miss that connection with patients, right? But I am really stopped and thought about it. Like what I'm missing is the fact that I enjoyed helping people in that way. But for me, helping someone in the hospital or outside of the hospital, there's no real difference in it as far as, the good that I'm achieving. Yeah. So, I'm been able to reach people. When I started writing these books, again, I never really thought it was going to become this, but I've since had 10 different people tell me that they were going to commit suicide and stopped because they started reading these books, and through the books, they found a friend and now they don't really feel so alone. I've had people write to me that they were getting a divorce and they started reading these books together and started laughing for the first time in 5-10 years. Mothers that are like, my son or my daughter never really wanted to read because they just love video games, and the fact that you have a book about video games, they've sparked that and now they're getting into other stuff. And it's like impacting these people in a way that I never really thought was going to be possible is amazing. I mean, it's humbling. It's awesome. So, I'm hoping that's still good enough to, get me into heaven, one day. And, and in my personally, like, I'm happier, I'm able to pursue this. I'm able to read books that I haven't been able to read in 15 years. I'm able to reconnect with friends that I lost touch with, some of which, I reconnected with at a very pivotal time. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, that is fulfilling. I think everyone with a product or service aspire to do just that, like make change in someone's life. Do you have a number of actual books purchased, books downloads that you can share with our audience so they can be inspired?
As of recently, I have reached a million books sold.
A million.
I've reached 1 billion books sold, so that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is fantastic. And that's just in the period of almost 2 years or less than 2 years?
4 years, 3.5, 4 years at this point. Let's see. Yeah. So I published my first book November 21st, 2015. So almost 4 years. Yeah.
That's awesome. See, guys, if you want it bad, you can make it happen, even on no sleep, with no sleep. That you did. Now you're able to enjoy your sleep and your home and your life. What's in store for you next? Like, what can we expect from you as we follow your journey? Because I'm sure a lot of our listeners will be following your journey.
Oh, that's great. So I have 2 more books that I'm hoping and that my fans are hoping come out by the end of the year, and those will be in ebook form. And then I will have 2 audiobook releases by early next year. And I have a lot of story left to tell and a lot of other stories that I want to get started on. So I'm going to keep putting out books as long as people keep reading them. But what I really want, obviously, is, I'm trying to get on Netflix and trying to, maybe have like a hardcore kind of, yeah, right. I want that, I want to make it like kind of a more adult kind of cartoon with like the comedy of like Rick and Morty and stuff like that, but with like, the intensity of like Castlevania, which was basically their pilot anime that they made. So, like having that kind of thing, and making those kind of connections. And I've been able to like meet authors that I read growing up that were formative, that like know me now, which is insane. I mean, I was just at Dragon Con, which is like the big nerd convention in the South every year. And I was on a panel with Brandon Sanderson and Jim Butcher, which, if you guys don't know, they're basically like, it's like being on a panel with like Brad Pitt and I don't know, like The Rock, maybe. Like, really, really, really big names. And, on the panel, I was like trying to be like, well, I'm really happy to be up here and, whatever else, but also let people know. And like, there was a time where like one of the big authors was like, Aleron, actually, I want your opinion. And I was like, okay, so this is happening. This is actually, because I mean, I read this guy from, when I was like 8 or 9, my entire life. And his works were part of why I fell in love with writing fantasy. And it's kind of just been amazing to, I don't know, be the new kid in the club, but be in the club, which is kind of great. So
I totally see it, and I think that's even a part of connection and who because they say your connection is your network is your net worth.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully anybody even listening to this, if you got some connections, let them know.
Yeah.
But I totally see it, and just for good vibes, everybody that's been in our podcast has surpassed their dreams. So I see it sooner than later, and we're rooting for you. This is fantastic to even know that this exists, right? Because like you said, we're not in this space, and to be embraced by millions of people around the world through you and your words and your voice is incredible. And I wish nothing more. All the best for you as you continue. Your growth will surpass your dreams, and we're happy that you shared your story with us today, and we look forward to hearing more and seeing more of your journey.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome. How can our listeners connect with you if they want to purchase your book? They're into sci-fi novels, and they're like super pumped about this. How can they connect with you in your community?
Well, so my name is Aleron Kong. It's Aleron Kong. I'm assuming it'll be written down. But also my genre is LitRPG, LITRPG, and I own the domain www.litrpg.com. Please message me. I'll love to send you a free ebook, a free audiobook. I love connecting with people. And it's been good being here.
Yay. Thank you so much. This was definitely an honor. Guys, if you're listening, please check out Aleron's website, his community. Go download his book on Amazon. Several of them. I think he's at number 7 right now.
Yeah, 8's coming out this year.
Yes. So, and they have been hammering him for the rest. I've seen those comments. Like, where's the next one? So definitely join in the movement, support him and everything he's doing. If you have any questions, shoot us those questions. We can still forward them to him, or you can forward them to him directly. Thank you for listening. Until next time, dream big, execute hard. And we have some other amazing guests that's coming up. So definitely stay tuned. This season is going to be awesome. Bye.
Dreams inspire reality.